Hello everyone, Jesse Webb, TradersPro. Market conditions mildly bullish in this bull market, continuing this overall uptrend. We're seeing a nice short-term bounce here off of these lows on breadth and momentum as well. I'm just going to jump right over to the buy-sell ratio. You can see it's starting to work its way back together as we've been talking about within this rally. These extended areas and really deeply oversold just don't last, and getting a nice bounce here also with confirmation on sentiment off of this green location, typically reaching these lower areas, and again, unsustainable downtrends or uptrends at these edges will typically start to find some activity here. Let's look at the S&P 500 right here, because we do have some areas that we're going to be working with here, or dealing with, I should say, in the short term, and that is this resistance area right here, this 438 on SPY, and futures are up this morning. We'll see if we get any kind of continuation or follow through, but we've now notched ourselves back up above this level, this 431 level. So now we're kind of inside of this bracket right here. We may run into some resistance. The more we climb and then create this stair step where we're now up above this 433, or excuse me, up above the 431 rather, that becomes the new location for support. If we start to pull back, watch for opportunities here now, that 431 area, to be buying into the market as it ultimately moves higher. From there, that is, if it does continue to hold. That's what we want to see. Is we want to see it, continuing to make these, climbing these ladders essentially, and continuing to show support at these areas. The more rungs of the ladder on the upside that we can accomplish, then the stronger this overall uptrend is going to be, because then they become resistance areas, or excuse me, support areas on the downside. Just like this 431 now is a floor on the overall market. Oops, let me go back. There we go. Let's look at some of the sectors that we're seeing here. The sector scan ETF, seeing a nice set of yellow now across the board. We were red for so long. We've got the short-term trend, which is moving. So we've got everything moving in the uptrend. You can see these weekly returns, 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%. Technology and real estate having a big pop so far this week. Overall year to date down, but again, pretty healthy move right here, and that's what we want to see, is just additional confirmation, additional buying, and as things move higher. In the commodity sector, the one thing that we've been watching here now, or been talking about the last few weeks, is oil. Oil is having this bounce, retracement, lots of geopolitical activity here on oil, but it's in the shorter term in this downtrend zone, which is ultimately good. Ultimately, it's in a long-term uptrend, but if we can retrace this and then see, I'm a fan of oil dropping back to $10 on the ETF, if that is in the cards, but it's certainly in this downtrend now. It may start to climb again, mostly on geopolitical issues right now. And also gold. Gold is having a big move off of a low, deeply oversold, still also in a downtrend, has some work to do there. Bonds, we've talked about bonds, and those are really some of the big talking points this week. We've actually moved on TLT, what's been the talking points of the last year, honestly, the bond market. We're seeing these oversold moves and a bounce back up, and so some potential resistance here. We notice that the last 4 or 5 days, the bond market has been rallying and the stock market has been rallying, and that's essentially, they really are linked right now. We've talked about this ETF here, where we go into, let's see if it's still up in that upper range. It is PFIX. So you can see as it's falling back, bonds are rising. This is an chart of interest rates, and they're starting to pull back as well. So it's still in this upper momentum zone, just like bonds are in the lower momentum zone. And they're obviously going to have an exact correlation, opposite correlation in terms of their price activity. But that's kind of good. Markets want to see that. Markets want to see interest rates starting to pull back in a little bit, and they're doing that. So markets being rewarded, and it's actually doing what what it is supposed to do, which doesn't happen very often. But that's really what the market is watching right now, are interest rates and inflation numbers. An interesting perspective that I thought we could look at also this morning is if we take a look at sectors and then commodities, this chart that we just looked at. Notice these year-to-date changes on some of these. These upper two are more natural resources. Obviously, natural gas and palladium, they play a different part in the economy. But notice wheat and corn. I thought I had sugar in here. Sugar's actually been rallying. I'm gonna add that in there. But wheat and corn, in terms of these inflationary pressures, and same with lumber and steel. But these are really having, they're down big. So wheat's down 30% this year. Corn is down 16% this year. And lumber, it's relatively flat. Those are some of those inflationary perspectives, particularly food. Wheat and corn are in everything, right? They're in every single item of our processed foods for the most part. And so whether or not some of those things start to show up in the consumer data, it'll be interesting to see over the next few months. But I thought that was interesting. Let's look at some muscle stocks here this morning. We've got Tidewater. We've got some oil stocks that have had a nice pop. TDW. Let me just refresh here for us, and we'll take a look at the next couple. On the new buys list. TDW, HCM, nice confirmation. Biomedical stock breakout, a little bit of a fade there, but we've now connected this swing high in this time frame. That's on this time frame. That's what we want to see. We want to see a stock that's moving in this upper direction. It's in this upper zone. This is the momentum zone above this 236 area, and as it's starting to continue to climb, that's what we want to continue to see on a stock like that, is it moving in the right direction. TALK, TALK, Medical Information Systems. This is actually a really nice looking pattern as well. $2 stock. So some possible opportunity here of a stock that is showing just a really smooth trend. Relatively cheap, right around $1 right here, has been moving nicely in this uptrend. Now it's in the upper momentum zone and still relatively tight, kind of consolidating nicely in there. That one, TALK, it'd be interesting to keep an eye on over the next few days as well. AVGO, semiconductor electronic stock, that's Broadcom. That's not a cheap stock right there. 870. Well, in terms of price, it may be, in valuation, it may be cheap, but to buy one share, it costs you $874, but a nice uptrend there. Eli Lilly also, massive mega cap stock, having some nice momentum. Year to date is up 65%. Just this year alone is up 86%. So has the potential to really have some acceleration on this overall uptrend. That'll do it for today's update. If you don't have full access to the site and software, you can sign up with the link below, and we look forward to having you. Have a fantastic day today.